Well, English is a tool for international communication these days, and what that means is non-native speakers are speaking to non-native speakers, and that's the most common way that English is actually being used. You'd think it was native to native, but actually it's non-native to non-native. And that has all kinds of consequences that we need to take on board when we're writing a course book. First of all, students are more likely to be talking to people with different accents. So when we designed the listening part of the book, we made sure that there's a whole range of different accents for students to listen to, so they become comfortable listening to a range of different accents. But also, if you're talking to a non-native speaker, you're going to be talking to somebody from a different culture. And so it's very important that we had a very strong international feel in the course. And we did that in a range of different ways. We made sure that some of the writers of the articles were non-native speakers. We got non-native speakers in a studio and got them to talk about everyday topics. And they bring their own cultural assumptions into the studio, and therefore we get that into the course as well. So we did a range of things to make sure that the course was as international as possible. I think some courses do suffer from being a little bit Anglo-centric and a little bit Eurocentric. We want to really get away from that.
We decided that in order to avoid stereotyping or cold analysis or a manners thing, was to get people from their own cultures talking about various topics, and we would give them a topic, but we had no idea what they were going to say, and we didn't want them to stress differences so much. It could be differences or similarities. It's not something to point out how different and interesting we are, but rather possibly how similar we are, and differences as well. So it's a kind of combination of that, and it's turned out to be wonderful because these people are kind of like witness voices. They're talking, but they're not talking on behalf of their entire culture, because that's impossible, but they are one witness voice from a culture, and they're giving their opinions mixed in with information. So they wound up being so interesting. We'd have maybe 2 or 3 people talking about a particular topic, and then the students can identify to more or less degree with any of those, or place themselves in relation to any of the speakers, or they may be completely different. And ideally, it is supposed to be a completely non-threatening, non-challenging, non-stereotypical or prejudicial way of looking at culture.
When the author sat down to write all of these books, we started by having a list of practical communicative goals. And we cut them all up, and we put them into little groups that made sense as little units. And that was the starting point of every unit. So all the language we selected, all the topics we chose, all of the different texts, they all stem from these communicative goals. So these units have real communicative purpose, and they're incredibly practical for that reason.
When you get authentic text, you get a range of topics and ideas and thoughts and an idiosyncratic take on things that you could never hope to get from just a group of writers. And particularly our speakers would bring, from their own cultures, the age that they happen to be. For example, we had some that were 20, some that were 60, some in the middle. They would bring a view and ideas to our course to make English Unlimited even richer and more varied and more interesting and with more depth than we could ever have predicted.
I think also the fact that we have got so much authentic material in the book, it does make it, again, very real. It does reflect, real English. And that's compounded by the use of the corpus, that we've managed to use it to the extent that if you look at a lexical set or a bit of language in the book, you look at it and your first reaction, what most people have said, is that's what we really do say.
One of the key points about English Unlimited is its extreme usability. A teacher could theoretically take the book and walk straight into the class without preparation and teach from it right off the page, and everything would be there from them.
What I would like to ask teachers to do is to take the time to look at actually a lesson from beginning to end, and they will notice how coherent each lesson is, how there's nothing on the page which doesn't contribute towards achieving the goals stated at the beginning of the lesson.